Pumping begins by arriving at the fire and safely parking the truck and setting the park brake. We now want the engine to turn the pump instead of the drive wheels. To do this, we engage the pump by first shifting the pump shift controller from road to pump. Not all of our pump shifts look like this, but this type is common. Notice that it is a 3-position switch. It is good practice to pause in the middle, neutral position. Even take your hand off the switch for a moment. When the shift is in pump mode, we should see a pump engage light, if the truck is so equipped. We may even hear a clunk as the gears move. The transmission is now connected to the pump instead of the rear wheels. When we put the transmission in drive, it will drive the pump, not the rear wheels. When we do this, we see speed on the speedometer. We also look to make sure there are no warning lights or alarms that would make us not want to commit to pumping. Things like low oil pressure or stop engine, for example. A low air alarm or door ajar light would not cause us concern that the truck is not capable of pumping and can be ignored. We should now see the OK to pump light lit. These steps apply to most of our pumpers. There are a few anomalies like PTO pumps that pump in neutral. These and some of our newer pumpers do not show speed on the speedometer when pumping. A good habit, one that we enforce for new operators, is to verbalize speedometer reads, then you read whatever it reads. Usually it's around 25 kilometers an hour. No alarms. OK to pump. When you say speedometer, you should be looking at the speedometer. Then scan the instrument cluster saying no alarms, then look to the OK to pump light to ensure that it is lit. The truck is now ready to pump water. Get out of the cab, maintaining 3 points of contact, and close the door. We know from our driving course, if we are not seating in the driver's seat, the wheels need to be chalked, so do that now. As we pass the pump panel, we can open the tank to pump if we can do it without looking or stopping. When we chalk our tires, we chalk both the front and the rear of the wheel. While we have a chance, let's talk about chalking wheels. If they are the metal folding type, pull the handle out until the hand hole on the face of the chalk is exposed. Lift out of the holder by this hole, setting the chalk on the ground. Use your foot to push and lock the handle down and push chalk under truck until it is squared to and close to the tire. When it is time to remove the chalk, pull out with the handle. This allows you to use your thumb to release the safety catch while lifting the chalk. Place your other hand under the chalk to keep it folded as it is placed in the holder. Keep fingers clear of the sides of the chalk as these are pinch points. Chalk both sides of the rear wheel, then go to the pump panel. If we want to pump water, we need to have water to pump. The water we want is in our internal tank. To let it get to the pump, we need to open the tank to pump valve. This may also be called tank suction. This needs to be fully opened and locked if there is a lock on it. Our pump is now wet, or at least has water in it, but there may also be a lot of air in there, so we need to prime. Before priming, we need to increase the RPMs of the engine to between 1,000 and 1,200 RPM to ensure there is enough electricity for the priming pump. This is done in RPM mode if on an electronic governor equipped truck. Watch the tach, not the master discharge gauge. Once we reach 1,000 to 1,200 RPM, we operate the primer. Now our gaze switches to the master discharge gauge to watch as it climbs and stabilizes. On a wet pump, this will be quick, almost instant, but on a dry pump, it may take a few seconds. We are now ready to pump water. If they aren't ready for it, we need to send it somewhere to protect our pump from overheating. Opening the tank fill valve sends water into the tank. Only partially open it, because if we put water into our tank at too high of a pressure, we can damage it. When we receive the signal to charge the line, we should quickly signal back to show we saw them. First, we close the tank fill. We don't need it open if we are now charging a line. Then slowly open the correct discharge. Always check first to make sure we are charging the right line and the bed is clear of hose. If the bed isn't clear, we need to clear it before charging the line. Open that discharge slowly. Opening it too fast can cause the hose to jump, possibly causing an injury. Also, the water hammer it causes will produce unnecessary stress on the pump and hoses. We now get the pressure up to where it needs to be. For our standard pre-connect, that is 110 psi. And we set pressure control. On an electronic governed truck, that is done by choosing PSI mode. We are now pumping to an attack line. One of our main worries now is, will I run out of water before they run out of fire? We need to monitor our water levels and let the crew on the line know when the tank reaches 1/2 and 1/4. When the crew is done with water, they will signal, shut down the line. Again, we should signal back to show we saw and understood the signal, and then slowly close the discharge. We no longer need the pump to be building the 110 psi, so we lower that until the engine is running at its idle. On this truck, it is about 750 RPM. Most trucks are in the 700 to 800 RPM range, but you need to know what it is for the truck you are operating. And then push the idle button on the governor. This disengages the governor, or turns it off if you like. If we aren't pumping, we don't need the tank water any longer, so we close the tank to pump valve. Drain any line that is charged by opening the appropriate drain. Go back to the cab to take the truck out of pump gear by reversing the steps we took to get in pump gear. First, shifting the truck back to neutral to stop the pump from spinning. Watch that the speedometer drops back to 0. Then move the pump shifter to the road position. Anytime we are in the driver's seat, our foot should be lightly resting on the brake. This is known as covering the brake.